On this episode of Blast from the Past, we check out my 1977 Gibson L-9S Ripper bass. So I have been on a bass-loving kick for the past, probably a year and a half, and I have always wanted an old Gibson Ripper bass. And I was always a huge fan of course, Nirvana. Chris Novoselic is who I first saw this bass with. However, as the years went on from, when I first started playing in the 90s, you start seeing the Rippers pop up pretty much everywhere inconspicuously. And you're just like, oh wait, was that a Ripper? Or a Grabber? And yeah, I thought we would talk about my 1977 Ripper bass from Gibson. So the Ripper bass was designed by Bill Lawrence, who also designed the pickups as well. And we'll get to these in just a second. However, the bass was designed by Bill Lawrence, and the Ripper was produced from 1973 to 1983. And it went through kind of two different iterations. There is a pre-74 and post-74. Namely, the easy tell for the pickups is the pickup adjustments were on the housings themselves, and then after 1974, you saw the outer screws outside mounted on the pick guard. That's an easy tell of kind of what year range a bass is. Also, some of the selector etchings in the pick guard did change, and the bevels in the body changed as well after 1974. But generally speaking, they're all very similar and the same. They didn't do any drastic changes like a scale length change or huge electronics change or anything like that. Now, for most of the life of the Ripper, the three finish options were natural, black, and burst. Now, the natural bodied Rippers came with a maple fingerboard, and the rest of the finish options came with an ebony board. You also had a fretless option as well, which you do actually see quite a few fretless basses pop up, and not surprisingly, those are the ones that are usually in really, really good condition, because the guys that are playing fretless bass fusion stuff take really good care of their stuff, so they haven't been like gigged to death or anything. Now let's talk about the pickups. The pickups, like I said, were designed by Bill Lawrence, and these are basically low output mini humbuckers that are very punchy and very kind of, they're very, very clean because they are very low output. When you plug this thing into a DI and start looking at the waveforms, you're like, is this thing broken? It's not broken. It's just really, really low output and meant to be very, very clean. But, of course, everyone is playing 200 plus watt Ampeg SVTs back then, so that really wasn't an issue. It's just slightly alarming coming from, the Music Man Stingray world that I usually live in and have a bunch of. So going from those big humbucker basses to this was kind of a shock for me. So position 1 is both pickups in phase, wired in series. Position 2 is bridge pickup only. Position 3 is both pickups in phase, wired in parallel. And then position 4 is both pickups out of phase, wired in series. Note, none of those positions give you just the neck pickup, which a lot of players modify on their basses. However, I've just left mine completely stock, except for the bridge. Now, I installed a hip shot bridge on my Ripper for two reasons. One, tonal, but B, because the stock bridge was it was crusty and corroded, and the way you adjust the 3-point Gibson bass bridge is you have to basically raise the entire bridge. There's no individual string adjustment, and that was driving me insane because the saddles were very, very grooved. So I installed this lovely hip shot bridge, which is a drop-in replacement and is completely reversible as well. You don't have to modify the bass in any way. It also sits on the body and makes a lot of contact with the body. I have found the sustain and the low end improved with this bass over the stock bass. Now, siblings of the Grabber include the G3 and the regular Grabber basses. Now, the main differences between the Grabber basses and the Ripper basses is the Ripper bass will have a regular Gibson open book headstock, whereas the Grabber will have the Flying V arrow style headstock, and also a Grabber is a bolt-on neck. Ripper is a set neck. So the Grabber is just a little bit better as far as construction methods go. However, a Grabber is obviously a really, really great bass, and it was less expensive than the Ripper. The Ripper is just basically a deluxe version of a Grabber, and obviously it doesn't have the movable pickup. However, the body shape is the same. All right, so I have my 1977 Gibson Ripper bass plugged in once again to the Ampeg SVT suite using the SVT4 Pro. This is my normal stock configuration that I normally have with this bass. We'll just go through the positions. I'll also show you the patch in just a second, but this is my typical tone when I go to record. Pretty clean. There's a tiny bit of grit because in the effects section, I do have an overdrive blended in. Without the overdrive, it gets like really, really clean. Okay, so right now we are in position 4. Position 1, excuse me, on the earlier models, I think it was flipped. But so right now we're in position 1, both pickups. Position 2. Position 3. Little bit less of a bass boost than position 1. Let's go from 3 to 1. And lastly, position 4, which is pretty strange, but cool. It's the out of phase quacky sound. So going back to position 1, for me, if I turn on this bass overdrive, just to give it a little bit of sauce, that's like the Chris Novoselic sound, in my opinion. I'm in drop D, but something like Lounge Act, right? Like, that's the sound. I don't normally play this in drop D, so I'm trying to I'm trying to reconfigure how I play it. But that's the sound, right? It's very clean. It's very punchy. Again, these are very, very low output pickups, but they have just a really nice EQ curve going on. There's a lot of punch. Now my mid-range control is at mid position. It's at 5, right? So we have no cut and no boost. If we take the mid-range all the way down, now this is not an active circuit, so the range, the sweep range isn't huge, but you can tell a little bit of difference, especially on position 2 that I'm in now. The low end control, I guess you'd call it a tone control, but it's really 0 is maximum bass, 10 is maximum treble. I don't really know what that means. So let's play with the tone control. That's 10, that's maximum treble. For me, the tone controls do a little bit of fine tuning, but overall, your pickup selector is what's going to determine what affects your, sonic sound the most. I typically am keeping the treble or the tone control at 5 and the mid-range at 5, right in the middle as well. So no boost and no cut. It's just easier. But when I first got this bass, I put everything on 10. And I was like, that sounds kind of weird and like, top endy and quacky. Huh? And then I saw the original brochure and I was like, oh, whoops. So yeah, there you go. That's my 1977 Gibson Ripper. So what do I think? If you can get a good deal on one of these basses, you will be rewarded. Now, being a vintage instrument, it's really tough to kind of know if anything has been done to it or how exactly it plays. If you're looking on Reverb or Facebook Marketplace or eBay or Gear Exchange or anything like that. I found this in Portland, which is about 2 hours from me, for about $3,000. I think I paid after shipping $3,100, which is kind of on the mid-upper side of what these basses go for. However, this was totally original, very, very clean. There's lots of fret life on it, and overall, everything was completely functional and in really, really good shape. This is a very clean example, but if you are willing to get one that has like, a repaired headstock or anything like that, you can expect to pay about $1,500 to $2,000 for one of these things. So yeah, keep that in mind. That's been my my Gibson Ripper bass from 1977. And yeah, I will link down below in the description if you'd like to know more about the Ripper series basses. And with that, you've been wonderful, I've been Fluff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time.